Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Marathon closing arguments in former President Trump's business records trial. The defense casts Michael Cohen as the MVP of liars, while the prosecution alleges an election conspiracy. The jury expected to begin deliberations today after getting instructions. This after President Biden and Trump's teams held dueling press conferences outside the courthouse yesterday.
A teen construction worker killed, baseball-sized hail, and over 1 million homes and businesses without power as violent storms wreak havoc in Texas.
A natural gas explosion in Ohio leaves 1 person dead and 7 others injured. What we know so far about the incident.
Israel denies striking a camp west of Rafah after Hamas says tank shelling killed over 20 people yesterday. Plus, Algeria proposes a UN resolution demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, the latest in the Israel-Hamas war.
Farmers must kill over 4 million chickens after the bird flu hits an Iowa egg farm. We bring you the story and more with the host of NTD Business Matters.
Stoke their fire. We hear an author's tips on how to motivate kids to strive towards living the American dream. This and the hugely positive ripple effects of gentle parenting.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
I'm Stephanie Cox, sitting in for Evelyn today.
Welcome to NTD.
Today is Wednesday, May 29th.
And Steph, that was a long day in New York court yesterday.
It certainly was. And another surprise, afterwards, former President Trump didn't make any remarks, which he usually does to the media.
That's right. And those jurors were reportedly very attentive.
Some taking notes, others watching the prosecution with such intent. Really something to watch for, and we will be keeping an eye on that. That's the top of the story today. The fate of former President Trump in New York trial is now in the hands of that jury. The prosecution and defense made their closing arguments yesterday.
The defense, led by Todd Blanche, attempted to raise doubts in the jurors' minds and discredited Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen.
Blanche called Cohen the MVP of liars. He said Cohen has lied in the past and that he lied to jurors. He told the jury they should want and expect more from this case than testimony from Michael Cohen, who was the only witness to say that Trump falsified business records. The defense argued that this case is not about an alleged affair, but instead about payments made to Cohen. They denied all charges, claiming that Trump is innocent.
The prosecution argued for 4.5 hours, showing their case with recordings, emails, and text messages. Lead prosecutor Joshua Steinglass argued that claims of extortion by Stormy Daniels were not a valid defense, as her intention was to share her story, not sell it. He said Daniels' story itself was the motive for Trump to buy the story and to ultimately commit crimes. Trump faces 34 counts of falsifying business records and up to 4 years in prison or probation for first-time offenders. It is unclear whether the prosecution will request jail time if Trump is convicted.
Jurors are expected to begin deliberations today after receiving instructions from the judge on the law and the factors that they may consider as they strive to reach a verdict. As former President Trump's New York trial enters its final phase, President Biden's campaign makes its most direct attempt so far to wade into Trump's legal woes.
Trump's team says that's prompted by Trump's lead in the polls. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has the story.
And President Biden's campaign made a rare move by holding a surprise press conference right outside of the Manhattan courthouse. And that's after the campaign had avoided directly talking about Trump's trial for the past weeks. Biden's surrogates Robert De Niro and 2 former Capitol Police officers focused on the message that Trump is a threat to democracy.
I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it.
Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters. You're salty. You're a nobody. Your movies suck.
The video of De Niro getting heckled by Trump supporters was posted by Trump on Truth Social as a response. Trump's campaign, meanwhile, again called this case a political one as Trump's son also weighed in. Watch.
Michael Cohen is the embodiment of reasonable doubt. After months of saying the politics had nothing to do with this trial, they showed up and made a campaign event.
And President Biden's campaign, when asked about why they're holding a political event outside of a criminal trial, said they're here not because of the Trump trial, but because all the media outlets are here. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.
For a recap of closing arguments in former President Trump's business records trial in New York, we invite John Malcolm. He's the vice president of the Heritage Foundation's Institute for Constitutional Government and the director of the Mies Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. Good morning to you, John. Let's get right into it. Has the prosecution provided enough evidence to support their claim that Trump and his team engaged in an election conspiracy, like they said in closing arguments?
I think this trial could go any number of ways. I still think the odds of a mistrial or a hung jury are very, very high. So I think that the prosecutors did three things pretty well. One was they showed that all of these elaborate checks and records and invoices, that really only one person stood to benefit from all of these elaborate machinations, and that was Donald Trump. The second thing that they did to try to counter Trump's lawyer's claim, correct in my opinion, that Michael Cohen is perhaps the greatest liar of all time, is to say, look, we didn't choose Michael Cohen as our witness. Donald Trump chose Michael Cohen as our witness because he was his personal attorney and his fixer. And the third thing I think they did pretty well, they did it through an old book, was to show that Donald Trump, when he wants to, pays a great deal of attention with respect to his business records. On the other hand, there should have been two major witnesses at this trial if we were going to try to establish this scheme. One of them is Michael Cohen and the other is Alan Weisselberg. Alan Weisselberg was the CFO of the Trump Organization, and he did not testify because he is sitting in Rikers Island at the moment, having been convicted of his own crimes. And Michael Cohen has lied every time that he has been under oath, hates Donald Trump, stole from Donald Trump, blames Donald Trump for everything bad that has happened in his life. So it's difficult for me to believe that 12 jurors are going to believe beyond a reasonable doubt the things that came out of Michael Cohen's mouth.
Understood, John. And in response to that claim about the conspiracy, Blanche said that every campaign in this country would be a conspiracy with a group of people working together to promote a single candidate. There, Prosecutor Steinglass argued that Trump tried to show others the cost of taking him on, citing Trump's lawsuits against Cohen and Daniels. What was the purpose of that, and did that have any direct bearing on whether business records were falsified?
Well, it doesn't. It goes to, it says something about Donald Trump's character, but also that he tries to keep witnesses in the fold, if you will. He praises them when they are cooperating with them and not cooperating with authorities. They're showing loyalty to him. But heaven help you if you go against Donald Trump and start cooperating with prosecutors. That was the message that the prosecutors were trying to convey, is that Michael Cohen was fearful because Donald Trump attempted to engage in witness intimidation. It doesn't really go directly to whether or not Donald Trump committed a crime. I think the theory of illegality, the theory of this crime, is kind of crazy to begin with, but it goes to what would motivate witnesses to do what they did.
Okay, John, please walk us through the process for this trial from here on out.
Well, so the jury will be instructed in the law today by Judge Merchan, and then they will begin deliberating. And, I don't know exactly how long they will deliberate. My guess is that they will reach a verdict by the end of the weekend, because jurors typically don't want to come back the next week if they don't have to. And all 12 of them are going to have to agree about whether Donald Trump was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They can either all 12 agree to convict him, or all 12 can agree to acquit him. But if there is one juror, if there is a split among the jury, some think he's guilty, others think he isn't, then eventually a mistrial will be declared, and then the prosecutors will have the right to retry him if they so choose.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. John Malcolm, the Vice President of the Heritage Foundation's Institute for Constitutional Government.
Great to be with you.
In a significant political maneuver, President Biden will be formally nominated as the Democratic presidential nominee through a virtual roll call ahead of the party's convention in Chicago this August. This ensures Biden's name appears on the November ballot in Ohio, despite the convention being after the state's August 7th ballot deadline. The virtual roll call will mirror the 2020 process during the COVID-19 pandemic, allowing Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to secure the party's nomination. The DNC plans to hold a ceremonial state-by-state roll call in Chicago. Ohio lawmakers have yet to move the ballot deadline this year, prompting Governor Mike DeWine to call a special session. The session is dealing with changes to Ohio's deadline. Democrats are insisting on a clean bill, free of additional measures that could complicate future ballot campaigns. Republicans, however, are pushing for broader election reforms. The outcome remains uncertain as legislative talks continue. And the tragic death in Texas as a teen was killed by a collapsing house due to violent weather.
This as storms continue to batter the region.
A 16-year-old construction worker died yesterday when two homes under construction collapsed in Magnolia, Texas. During a thunderstorm, workers noticed the house was shifting and evacuated, but the teen couldn't escape.
In Dallas, a storm ripped the roof off Rainbow Hardware, a warehouse in one of the city's commercial districts. In other parts of the city, trees were uprooted, low-lying parks filled with rushing water, and signs were knocked down.
In Houston, strong gusts of wind and rain struck yesterday as stormy weather continues to hit the state. An underpass in the city was covered by rainwater, creating a potentially dangerous situation.
About 1 million businesses and homes were without power as damaging winds and baseball-sized hail pummeled the Lone Star State yesterday.
And at least one person is dead and 7 are injured after an explosion at a building in Youngstown, Ohio.
Authorities believe the incident was caused by a natural gas explosion.
A video provided by local news showed debris flying through the air after the explosion caused extensive damage to the building.
Firefighters helped some people get out of the building. It houses a bank on the ground floor and also has some apartments. Police confirmed the person killed was an employee of Chase Bank.
JP Morgan Chase said it was in close contact with local officials and is checking on the safety of people in the building and the area. Authorities say at least one person is still missing. And a military aircraft crashed near the international airport in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
It's the second military plane crash in New Mexico in the past month.
The pilot, the only person on board, was able to escape after the crash yesterday. He was reportedly hospitalized with serious injuries. Video from a local news helicopter showed the crash site on the side of a hill.
Aviation Week reported the aircraft resembled a Lockheed Martin F-35. It says this would make it the first loss of an F-35 since September when one crashed in South Carolina. Kirtland Air Force Base was leading an investigation into the crash. The base did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
And up ahead, the White House signals it won't change policy toward Israel after a recent strike in Gaza led to more civilian deaths.
And Algeria proposes a UN resolution demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. We have the latest in the Israel-Hamas war. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy receives a second $1 billion promise of military aid. And tensions are rising over the possibility of Kyiv using Western-supplied weapons to attack Russia.
We are only 80 years removed from countries that killed 60 to 70 million people intentionally. And we have people being like, oh, it can't happen here. Yeah, it can. And it might.
These people, they're not interested in the facts. They're not interested in anything except crushing people that are in their way.
There needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members.
A strong church can stop this.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now.
800-494-1562.
The shining gem of New England. This delightful seaside city of Newport is one of the most beautiful places in the state. Today, we bring you here as we meet with our friends and fellow musicians from the Hermitage Piano Trio. As a team, they have garnered multiple Grammy Award nominations with their breathtaking performances.
Oh, wow, I did not think this instrument can make that sound, right?
The pandemic made this reunion even more special.
Three of us, we like it because we feel music the same way, so...
Don't miss us on the next episode of Piano Talks.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Welcome back. President Biden is not changing his policy toward Israel after a recent strike led to more civilian deaths in Gaza. Senior White House officials say Israel hasn't launched a major ground operation in Rafah yet or crossed any red line that would change U.S. support. Israel says it's working to verify the cause of the deadly fire after the airstrike in Rafah Sunday night. Meanwhile, Israel's military denies striking a humanitarian zone west of Rafah yesterday. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry said tank shelling killed over 20 people in a tent camp. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the situation in Gaza.
Israel's military says it's still too early to determine the cause of a fire that killed dozens of Gazan civilians on Sunday. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari says the findings won't make the situation any less tragic. He promised the investigation will be swift, comprehensive, and transparent. The IDF spokesman says the bomb used carried 37 pounds of explosives and wouldn't have caused a fire that size.
This is the smallest munition that our jets can use.
Hagari says Hamas has been operating from the area since October 7th, stating the targeted strike killed 2 Hamas leaders. The IDF shared maps of the target next to a Hamas rocket launcher, a mile away from the camp. One theory being looked at is secondary explosions from a terrorist weapons compound. The military released an intercepted phone call. It says raises and reinforces that concern. The conversation mentions a small bomb, munition warehouse, and secondary explosions. The Biden administration says it's closely monitoring Israel's investigation.
As a result of this strike on Sunday, I have no policy changes to speak to.
NSC spokesman John Kirby called on Israel to do more to protect civilians and warned of danger of isolation from allies.
There's still hundreds of thousands that are still in Rafah, that are still in danger, and we still have not seen a plan to take care of their safety and security, which is why nothing's changed about our view that we don't want to see a major ground operation in Rafah that puts those people at greater risk.
State Department spokesman Matt Miller says the U.S. is watching closely.
Israel has a right to go after the Hamas terrorists responsible for the cold-blooded murder of civilians, as appears to have been Israel's aim here, and Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians in Gaza. But Israel also has the obligation to do everything possible to minimize civilian harm.
Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu says roughly 1 million civilians have evacuated from Rafah. Meanwhile, the Pentagon says a new U.S.-built pier in Gaza broke apart and will take over a week to fix.
due to high sea states and a North African weather system.
Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh says over 1,000 metric tons of aid have been delivered through the pier. It went into operation 2 weeks ago. The Pentagon says the pier is being towed to a port in Israel for repairs. It then needs to be reconnected to shore to be used again. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Algeria has proposed a draft UN Security Council resolution demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The draft calls for Hamas to release all hostages and orders Israel to halt its military offensive in Rafah. Algeria's new UN ambassador said yesterday the aim was to stop the killing in Rafah. Algeria is a UN Security Council member for 2024 to 2025. The draft resolution cites a ruling by the International Court of Justice on Rafah last week. Diplomats said the council could vote within days. A council resolution needs at least 9 votes in favor and no vetoes to pass. The U.S., France, UK, Russia, and China have veto power. So far, the U.S. has shielded Israel by vetoing 3 draft council resolutions on the war in Gaza.
Joining us now for insight on the latest in the Israel-Hamas war is Josh Haston, Middle East correspondent for the Jewish News Syndicate and co-host of the JNS podcast, Jerusalem Minute. Welcome, Josh. With pressure rising on Israel around the world, could the latest Rafah incidents, do you think, further alienate Israel?
No, I don't think so. You've had the anti-Israel haters, if you will, attack Israel ever since October the 8th, one day after Hamas massacred 1,200 Israeli civilians and soldiers in cold blood. What you had in Rafah obviously was an Israeli direct strike on a Hamas site there, targeting 2 terrible people, 2 horrible terrorists. And what we're seeing now, and I knew this from the beginning, is that there was a secondary explosion, not verified by the IDF at this point, but it's just a matter of time. Hamas hides their weapons amongst their own civilian populations. That's their goal, to create as many casualties as possible amongst their own people. That way they can try to win the PR battle. They hide behind their own civilians and they target Israeli civilians. That's a double war crime. Israel is committed to going full steam ahead to wipe out the last 4 remaining battalions of Hamas, regardless of any international pressure.
Yeah, the loss of life is devastating, but the situation is set up in such a way, as you mentioned, that Hamas terrorists do organize it that way. So do you think that Netanyahu has sufficient support to deliver on his goal of eliminating Hamas?
Yeah, I do. Of course, politics always come into play in any situation, but we're in the midst of a war right now, and we have to remain united. You have people on the right, people on the left. Not everyone is happy exactly how the war is playing out, but our troop motivation is extremely high. The IDF troops down there in Gaza, dealing with these Hamas terrorists, morale extremely high, and their goal is to move completely forward, despite whatever is going on in our parliament and the Knesset, in order to eradicate Hamas, not only for the sake of Israel, but for the sake of all humanity. This is a problem for the world. Israel is viewed as the little Satan, the same people who flew jets into the Twin Towers, the Al-Qaeda terrorists. This is the same type of terrorism. Israel is the little Satan, and the United States is the great Satan. So this is a problem for all of humanity, and Israel's on the front lines. I'm confident Israel will deal with this problem and eradicate this evil, which is Hamas.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the U.S. is deeply entwined with this conflict, even though it's so far away, and the U.S. does still support Israel. Yet many media across the globe are taking different tacks. We had also various countries just yesterday making their moves to state their perspective in terms of Palestine and a Palestinian state. What's your perspective in terms of the media and its role in this war?
So first of all, in regard to those 3 countries, Norway, Ireland, and Spain unilaterally declaring a so-called Palestinian state, this is a reward for the Hamas terrorists. This is a reward for what they did on October the 7th. Absolutely abhorrent in the midst of a war to give them such a PR victory, if you will. It means absolutely nothing. I mean, where is this state called Palestine? They're going to come in and delineate where a so-called Palestinian state's going to be. They're going to divide our holy eternal capital of Jerusalem without our consent. Just go ahead and do that. And yeah, the international community, the mainstream media, of course, is without a doubt against Israel. They see those images coming out of Gaza. They see the images from Rafah, and they automatically make a snap judgment decision. And we had the same situation in the beginning of a war when a Hamas rocket fell short and hit near a hospital in Gaza. Automatically, the mainstream media, in addition to so many people on social media, took to the airwaves and blamed Israel. And later it was discovered that this was actually a Hamas rocket which fell short. And I'm confident that this will be the case here. This was a small munition, a pinpointed strike using pinpointed weapons, the least amount of force possible in order to take out two evil individuals from Hamas. Israel did that, and it was the secondary explosions which caused those horrible images which you saw on TV, which are being blasted around the world. But the truth will come out. I'm highly confident of that.
Yeah, a lot of information can get lost in the fog of war, even in the media's reporting. So how significant do you think Algeria's expected proposed UN Security Council resolution could be in terms of addressing the situation in Rafah, just to finish up?
Sure. Well, number one, I'm confident the United States will veto such a resolution. But as our prime minister has said, even if it's with our fingernails, clawing with our fingernails, we will do everything possible to defend the people of the state of Israel. This is not a war we wanted. This is a war Hamas thrust upon us by massacring 1,200 Israelis. So despite any international condemnations, whether it's at the UN or the ICC or the ICJ, no matter what happens, Israel is moving full steam ahead to wipe out this evil off the face of the earth. So no resolution is going to prevent what is necessary to be done, and that is eradicate Hamas once and for all for the sake of humanity.
All right, Josh Haston, great to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists in Yemen are still attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea. U.S. Central Command says the Houthis launched 5 missiles at a Greek bulk carrier yesterday. CENTCOM says 3 missiles hit the Marshall Island flagged vessel. The ship was damaged but continued sailing. A private security firm says radio traffic suggests the vessel took on water after being hit. No injuries were reported. Central Command also says it destroyed 5 drones separately over the Red Sea. The U.S. Maritime Administration says the Houthis launched over 50 attacks on shipping since November. That included seizing 1 vessel and sinking another. The terrorist group is demanding Israel end the war in Gaza. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has received a $2 billion promise of military aid during a tour of several European countries.
This as tensions rise over the question of allowing Ukraine to use Western weapons to attack targets in Russia. Some fear this could lead to an escalation of the war. NTD's Virginia Gibson brings us this report.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy visited Portugal and Belgium on Tuesday. He met with the Portuguese Prime Minister, who's pledging to send over $130 million in military and financial aid to Kyiv.
To date, we have delivered more than 1,000 tons of military material, including Leopard 2 combat tanks and unmanned aerial vehicle systems.
Belgium, meanwhile, promises to send around $1 billion worth of aid. That includes the delivery of 30 fighter jets. After signing the agreement on Tuesday, Zelenskyy visited a Belgian airbase. He was given a tour showcasing some F-16 fighter jets. Belgium hopes to deliver them before the end of this year. While in Brussels, Zelenskyy commented on Western countries that don't allow Ukraine to use their weapons on targets in Russia.
We can see the places of arms. Even from reconnaissance, you get maps, satellite images. You see where they stand, but you cannot respond. I think it's unfair. But we cannot, and this is a fact, risk the support of partners.
NATO's Secretary General on Tuesday dismissed concerns about Ukraine attacking targets inside Russia using Western weapons.
We have the right to support Ukraine without becoming a party to the conflict, because we are helping Ukraine to uphold the right for self-defense.
But Russian President Vladimir Putin shares a different view. He says NATO members are playing with fire. He told reporters that constant escalation can lead to serious consequences. Also on Tuesday, Poland's foreign minister was asked about sending troops to Ukraine. He says his country should not rule out that option, saying, quote, "Let Putin be guessing as to what we will do." He didn't specify what role the Polish troops would play. Ukraine's Western allies have generally not considered sending soldiers to the country, partly over fears of escalating the war. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
Texans have cast ballots to resolve nearly 36 races from the state's March 5th primary.
We have the results from the Texas primary runoff elections held yesterday, and local officials are calling to restore funding for what's called the most dangerous railroad crossing in California. We'll bring you a look at the notorious intersection after this short break.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Do you believe in Jesus?
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because it felt like a failure. And then I realized, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Texans voted yesterday to decide who they want running in this November's election.
In yesterday's primary runoff elections, voters decided nearly 36 unresolved races from the state's March 5th primary. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on some of the most significant results.
Congressman Tony Gonzales barely survived a challenge from a YouTube guns rights celebrity backed by hardline conservatives. Gonzales is projected to defeat Brandon Herrera by a mere 407 votes in a runoff for Texas's 23rd congressional district seat, with over 99% of votes counted. Herrera, known online as the AK guy, has criticized Gonzales for supporting bipartisan gun legislation. Gonzales will face Democrat Santos Limon in the November general election. Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan also scraped a victory in House District 21. He defeated Orange County Republican Party Chairman David Covey by only 366 votes. Covey was backed by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Attorney General Ken Paxton. Phelan attracted strong opposition from the party when he backed Ken Paxton's impeachment for corruption charges last year. In his concession speech, Covey accused Phelan of garnering the support of Democrats to win re-election. He called it a brazen act of betrayal. Texas has an open primary system, meaning voters can cross party lines to vote. In the 28th District, Republican Jay Furman won the party nomination to face Democrat Henry Cuellar. Furman, a military veteran, led rancher Lazaro Garza by more than 30 percentage points, with more than 95% of the vote counted. Cuellar and his wife were indicted on federal charges. They're accused of accepting bribes meant to benefit an Azerbaijani energy company and a bank in Mexico. They have denied wrongdoing. Cuellar ran unopposed in the Democratic primary, and the district had not been considered a top target for Republicans. But the court case could play a role in the November election. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The conduct of the National Institutes of Health during the COVID pandemic is in the spotlight.
Chairman Brad Wenstrup of the House Pandemic Subcommittee is investigating alleged efforts by the NIH and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The inquiry focuses on claims these agencies hid information about COVID-19's origins.
Wenstrup said yesterday that newly uncovered documents suggest Dr. Anthony Fauci's advisor, Dr. David Morans, discussed deleting official records. Wenstrup asserts this alleged document tampering undermines public trust and demands accountability.
The subcommittee chairman also highlighted emails from former Fauci Chief of Staff Greg Falkers. In those, Falkers says the NIH Freedom of Information Act office advised using misspelled words to evade document searches.
And the man convicted of assaulting former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband has been resentenced to 30 years in prison. A judge sentenced David DePape yesterday to the same punishment she handed down on May 17th. The judge failed to allow him to speak during the earlier court proceedings, so she scheduled a new hearing to resolve the issue. DePape expressed regret for his actions. He said he should have left once he realized Nancy Pelosi wasn't home. DePape struck Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, in the head with a hammer after breaking into his California home. That was in October 2022. In November 2023, a federal jury found him guilty of attempting to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and assaulting her husband. DePape said his plan was to take the former speaker hostage and break her kneecaps if she lied to him. And a proposed gender identity measure has failed to qualify for the California ballot. It would have required schools to notify parents if their child asks to change their gender identification.
Proponents of the measure announced yesterday they failed to collect enough signatures.
They argued it would have provided necessary transparency for the parents. They also sued California Attorney General Rob Bonta over the title and summary he issued, saying it was biased.
Bonta called it the Restrict Rights of Transgender Youth Initiative, while backers preferred Protect Kids of California Act.
The initiative also sought to ban boys who identify as girls from girls' sports and prohibit cross-sex procedures on minors.
The campaign gathered about 400,000 of the nearly 550,000 signatures needed. Railroad crossings are meant to give trains the right of way, but roads and traffic have changed over the years. Lawmakers in California are seeking funds to improve the most dangerous crossing in the state. NTD's David Lamb has the story.
Thousands of people commuting back and forth in both directions in the city of Burlingame at this train crossing, which is considered the most dangerous in California.
It's just too crowded. In general, it's pretty unsafe. Sometimes you'll have the police stationed in the gas station area there just for people who go through red lights because they're tired of waiting. So as things get close, you'll have people going through red lights, and occasionally the police will implement themselves there to be able to take care of that.
According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, since 2014, on average, 11,000 railroad accidents happen each year throughout the nation. The local Caltrain system in California is partnering with the city of Burlingame to separate the train tracks from the Broadway intersection. It would reduce traffic congestion and train noise. State Senator Josh Becker says there have been 22 accidents here since 2014.
We've seen the growth. We want more housing here, and Burlingame is one of the cities that's responded. They're growing the size of the town by 20%. So I think all that contributes to safety issues.
Officials want to restore funding of $70 million from the state, which would then make it possible for more funding federally.
It's a $320 million project. That's the primary need. We had the majority of that, and I think we only had a gap of about $50 million. except if the funding that the state had promised is taken away, obviously that gap will become much larger and it will be much harder to realize.
It's said that people could be distracted or don't anticipate the traffic buildup and then end up in the path of the train, especially for those new to the area. A recent collision was in January.
This Broadway interchange is the major gateway, particularly for the communities of Burlingame and Hillsborough. There's about 70,000 automobiles that travel through that intersection, and about 30,000 or so travel across these railroad tracks every day. So with all these moving parts at commute hours, it gets incredibly complicated. If your wayfinding system tells you to turn right, you may not even be able to anticipate where the right-hand turn is.
At the time of this crossing's development, the area became populated later on with businesses and traffic, leading it to be considered the most dangerous in the Golden State. In Burlingame, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Stay with us. Deadly bird flu found in an Iowa farm, forcing authorities to slaughter millions of chickens and cattle. We bring you the story and more with the host of NTD Business Matters after the break.
Art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shin-Yun.
People often ask, where's the best place in Korea to do business?
Chongbuk Free Economic Zone, of course. Take the first step to a successful investment and enjoy a bright future with CP Petchu.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang Omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. Preliminaries of the 2024 NTD International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will be held across Germany, Taiwan, and New York. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide in September 2024. For more information, please call 1-888-477-9228.
Joining us now is NTD Business Matters host Don Mott to give us the latest updates from the financial world.
Don, what's going on with the bird flu?
Well, it's not good news apparently, because more than 4 million chickens in Iowa will have to be killed. And this is according to the state yesterday because of a case of the highly pathogenic bird flu was detected at a large egg farm. To be exact, crews are in the process of killing 4.2 million chickens at a farm in Sioux County, Iowa, and this is just the latest example in a years-long outbreak that is now affecting dairy cattle as well, to a degree. Last week, the virus was confirmed at an egg farm west of Minneapolis, Minnesota, leading to the slaughter of nearly 1.4 million chickens. And according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, unfortunately, more than 92 million birds have been killed since the outbreak began in 2022. Although bird flu has become somewhat common among poultry, its spread to cattle, though, has added worry about the disease. In May, a second dairy farm worker was diagnosed with the bird flu, and the virus was detected in both beef and milk. It has been confirmed on dairy cattle farms in 9 states. Health and agriculture officials said, though, the risk to the public remains low, so that's good.
Yeah, that aspect of health is very important, though we do already have rising costs in terms of eggs and other groceries, so it'll be interesting to track that as well as this plays out. But next up, you've got some info on mergers in U.S. telecommunications. What's the latest there?
Yes, you're right about that. More consolidation for the telecommunications industry in the United States. So T-Mobile is set to buy U.S. Cellular's wireless operations for more than $4 billion. According to the telecom giant, this will include about a third of its spectrum assets and license agreements for more than 2,500 towers. So U.S. Cellular customers will be able to keep their current plans, or they can switch to a T-Mobile plan. T-Mobile does not expect the merger to impact its financial forecast or shareholder returns this year, and the deal is expected to close in mid-2025, and that's going to come after regulatory approvals.
Yeah, and T-Mobile said that those U.S. cellular customers can get access to its 5G network, and that's going to really benefit those rural Americans. Staying on telecom, Verizon said yesterday that it added Comcast's Peacock to its streaming subscription hub. Tell us more.
Yeah, you're right about that. And in addition to what you just said, now Verizon also plans to offer a YouTube Premium at a discounted rate with My Plan subscriptions. So Peacock's streaming service under NBC Universal will be made available from June 5th through Verizon's Plus Play. So this is an entertainment hub that offers consolidated streaming and lifestyle subscriptions to customers. And the telecom firm said it will offer YouTube Premium for $10 per month and offering savings of up to 30% to My Plan customers starting Thursday. And Verizon has benefited, from its customers and as well as customizable My Plan options and streaming bundle offers. Discounted pricing for services such as Netflix and Warner Bros. Discovery, as well as which has attracted customers. So the company introduced promotional bundles for 6 months of free access to Disney's service for new and existing customers on some plans. Verizon yesterday also announced the Ultimate Phone Upgrade Program, which gives customers on the Unlimited Ultimate Wireless plan their best phone and device promos when they trade in an older one. So some promos here that some people may be interested in.
Yeah, certainly worth looking into at least. And is there some good news for consumers on summer car sales?
Well, let's hope so, because according to industry experts, they're predicting that this summer could be an opportune time for consumers to, purchase a new car. Now, supply chain disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic created shortages of new cars, which drove up prices. And now dealers have abundant inventories, and this increase in new car options can lead to greater incentives potentially and financial deals for buyers with good credit. Now, potential buyers are advised, though, to research any incentives in the area and explore the best deals available on specific models that they are interested in. So the best deals are expected to be found on slower selling models. For example, that's sedans and hatchbacks rather than popular models like compact SUVs. And another tip is that buying used is always better than buying new, because as soon as you get in that new car, driving it off the lot, you lose thousands of dollars immediately.
Yeah, that depreciation. And on that note, according to Cox Automotive, a new car is going to cost you about $760 a month on average. So some analysts say that if you're not the type to drive it till the wheels fall off, don't even look at those 2023 models. Next topic, National Hamburger Day yesterday marked the start of some burger deals this week. Can you tell us where to find them?
Yeah, my favorite topic, hamburgers. So according to History.com, Americans eat about 50 million hamburgers a year. And here are some promotions running in celebration of National Hamburger Day yesterday. So Burger King running freebies until June 3rd for members of their loyalty program who spend at least 70 cents. They also happen to be celebrating their 70th birthday. Wendy's has a 1 cent Junior Bacon Cheeseburger deal until June 2nd. And Arby's has 50% off any burger for rewards members ordering through their app until June 2nd. I know I'm going to be taking advantage to some of these deals.
Yummy stuff, Don. And Clarion Ledger says that you can only get one 1 cent Junior Bacon Cheeseburger at Wendy's per visit per customer. So
noted.
I know. Don Ma, host of NTD's Business Matters, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
And stay with us. An author outlines how to motivate and inspire children to strive toward the American dream. Hear her simple tips on how to let kids soak up positive energy to create a better future for themselves in a minute.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
The shining gem of New England. This delightful seaside city of Newport is one of the most beautiful places in the state. Today, we bring you here as we meet with our friends and fellow musicians from the Hermitage Piano Trio. As a team, they have garnered multiple Grammy Award nominations with their breathtaking performances.
Oh, wow, I did not think this instrument can make that sound, right?
The pandemic made this reunion even more special.
3 of us, we like it because we feel music the same way, so...
Don't miss us on the next episode of Piano Talks.
Do you believe in Jesus?
The one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
We'll walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught trying to escape my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Salvation is a gift.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
Welcome back. The American Dream is alive and well, according to author Holly Swenson.
In the next segment, she explains how to stoke the fire of children to prepare them for a bright future of success, and how to create a warm family environment for their upbringing. Here's my chat with Holly Swenson, a registered nurse and the author of Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow.
The American Dream is the bedrock principle of our country and a principle worth passing on to our children. The American Dream is the national ethos that sets the stage for any citizen of the United States to pursue happiness, opportunity, betterment, and a brighter future with hard work, innovation, vision, and dedication. And according to a recent poll by the Wall Street Journal, 36% of Americans still believe in the American Dream, which is down 53% in 2012. And so despite this decline in believers and despite the current state of the world, I still very much believe the American Dream is alive and well. To me, the American Dream and the American spirit lives here, and it lives here. I think you really have to ask yourself, what is your mindset and what is your heart set? And what kind of life do you want to live? And what are you willing to work for? Ultimately what you believe is what you receive in life. And I think you really have to be an active participant in your success in life. And we live in a country where we all get to set our own bar of what success looks like.
That is excellent, Holly.
Go ahead.
Yes. And of course, and according to searchlogistics.com, there are 31 million American entrepreneurs right now, so a backbone of the American economy. So how do we get kids excited about this?
Sure. So actionable steps to keep the dream alive for our kids. I think you really want to encourage your kids to be successful and victorious in their lives and keep dreaming. You want to help stoke their fire so they live inspired and feel hopeful for their future. I think you also want to role model positivity and share your vision and dreams with them so they see inspiration in action. Kids are sponges, and so they're going to soak up any energy present in their home environment. I think it's also really important to avoid taking a jaded position, being cynical or negative, and living in a fear state. This is counterproductive and makes it harder to live the dream for you and your children. And finally, our country and our children are hungry and ready for us all to rekindle the American dream. So I think you want to share with your children what it means to work hard, to dream big, and be victorious today and all the days that lay before them. I really think that we can build a beautiful tomorrow, one dream and one child at a time.
That is such a positive message. And Holly, what can people learn from your book, Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow, about creating a positive environment for raising children?
Yeah, my framework that I created, which is Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow, will, ultimately help parents take their parenting to the next level, and will help them to parent with more peace, patience, intentionality, and joy. And, really my method will revolutionize the way you parent, will help you align with how you want to show up for your family, and also show you how to tend to your own heart in the process.
That is excellent. Yeah, and we look at BetterHelp.com, and they say that gentle parenting can ease some tensions between parents and children, and also foster an environment where kids can express their emotions freely. So does that help them flourish?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think just becoming more self-aware, more intentional, more conscious of how you're showing up for yourself and for your family, it'll have hugely, positive ripple effects for all involved.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Holly Swenson, registered nurse and author of Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow.
Thank you, Kevin.
What an inspiring interview. It really does come at this important time, I think, as we just heard, only 36% of people believe in the American dream. That's quite low.
Well, it is doable, they say. According to Real Investment Advice, you just have to put in a lot of hard work and make those sacrifices, and you can make it happen.
Yeah, the emphasis on mindset was really key here, I thought, and that is available to anyone.
Yeah.
Well, the second part of our broadcast starts right now, so stay tuned.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. Final arguments have concluded in the historic criminal case against former President Trump. Attorneys on both sides pushed for a verdict that will determine whether Trump is guilty or not. Our legal correspondent has highlights from the closing remarks.
The Trump and Biden campaigns holding dueling press conferences outside the New York courthouse. More on the unprecedented move by the Biden campaign and how former President Trump is responding. NTD's Iris Tao reports.
A natural gas explosion in Ohio leaves one person dead and 7 others injured. What we know so far about the incident.
A teen construction worker killed, baseball-sized hail, and over 1 million homes and businesses without power as violent storms wreak havoc in Texas.
South Korea on alert as mysterious balloons from North Korea are detected near the border. What they were carrying.
This year marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and commemorations are gearing up to remember those who died to protect their country.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
I'm Stephanie Cox, sitting in for Evelyn today.
Welcome to NTD.
And today is May 29th. Welcome.
Yeah, and that was a long day in New York court yesterday.
Absolutely, and a lot happened there, though we never heard from former President Trump afterwards, which he usually does speak to the media.
Yeah, and those jurors were reportedly very attentive.
Many were taking notes, of course, listening very intently to the prosecution. A long session of closing arguments there with the prosecution and the defense. But today's top story, of course, the fate of former President Trump and his New York trial is now in the hands of that same jury. The prosecution and defense making their closing arguments yesterday.
The prosecution and the defense passionately advised the jury to make a wise decision. NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards has more details.
On Tuesday, the prosecution and defense pushed their opposing theories one last time in the historic criminal case against former President Trump. Lead defense attorney Todd Blanche kicked off the morning with a 2.5-hour presentation designed to raise enough doubt in the jurors' minds to reject the prosecution's case. Blanche told the jury they were responsible for deciding whether or not former President Trump had anything to do with how payments to his former attorney were booked in his personal ledger, and that this case is not about an alleged affair, which Trump denies. At the outset, Blanche said President Trump is innocent. He did not commit any crimes, and the district attorney has not met their burden of proof, period. But discrediting Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen was the main focus of Blanche's remarks. For example, he called Cohen the MVP of liars. Trump's son, Donald Jr., who was in the courtroom, talked about Cohen at a press conference.
Michael Cohen is the embodiment of reasonable doubt, and this entire case hinges on someone who has quite literally lied to every single person and body he's ever been in front of.
Blanche said Cohen had lied in the past and he lied to the jurors. He pointed to key testimonies such as when Cohen said he spoke to Trump in October 2016 about paying off Stormy Daniels. Blanche said the call was actually to Trump's bodyguard. He told the jury they should want and expect more from this case than testimony from Michael Cohen, who is the only witness to say that Trump falsified business records. Moving on to Daniels' testimony, the defense disputed the former adult film star's allegations of an affair with Trump, and he rejected the prosecution's claims that entering into a non-disclosure agreement with Daniels to keep quiet about her story was illegal. Blanche dug into the details of several other claims made during the prosecution's case, including an alleged conspiracy and a campaign finance violation. The prosecution has the burden to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Lead prosecutor Joshua Steinglass had 4.5 hours to convince the jury to convict the former president. Steinglass, recognizing Cohen's credibility was a theme of Blanche's closing, admitted that the former attorney's past dishonesty was notable, but said Cohen's anger was understandable. Given that he was the only one to pay the price for his involvement in the conspiracy, said Steinglass. The prosecution painstakingly reiterated their weeks-long case, again presenting recordings, emails, and text messages to the jury. Steinglass said the defense's claims that Daniels was attempting to extort Trump is not a defense, and pointed to Daniels' testimony that she initially just wanted to get the story out, not intending to sell it to Trump. He said Daniels' story was the motive for Trump to buy her story and to ultimately commit crimes. Former President Trump faces 34 counts of falsifying business records and up to 4 years in prison or probation for first-time offenders. It's unclear whether or not the prosecution will request jail time if he is convicted. Arlene Richards reporting from the criminal courthouse in Manhattan.
Jurors are expected to begin deliberations today after receiving instructions from the judge on the law and the factors they may consider as they strive to reach a verdict.
As former President Trump's New York trial enters its final phase, President Biden's campaign makes its most direct attempt so far to wade into Trump's legal woes.
Trump's team says that's prompted by Trump's lead in the polls. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has the story.
And President Biden's campaign made a rare move by holding a surprise press conference right outside of the Manhattan courthouse. And this after the campaign had been avoided directly talking about Trump's trial for the past weeks. Biden surrogates Robert De Niro and 2 former Capitol Police officers focused on the message that Trump is a threat to democracy.
I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it.
Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters. You're salty. You're a nobody. Your movies suck.
The video of De Niro getting heckled by Trump supporters was posted by Trump on Truth Social as a response. Trump's campaign, meanwhile, again called this case a political one as Trump's son also weighed in. Watch.
Michael Cohen is the embodiment of reasonable doubt.
After months of saying the politics had nothing to do with this trial, they showed up and made a campaign event.
And President Biden's campaign, when asked about why they're holding a political event outside of a criminal trial, said they're here not because of the Trump trial, but because all the media outlets are here. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.
Going overseas, thousands of Taiwanese protested outside the island's parliament yesterday. It involves controversial bills that were passed. The changes seek to increase government oversight. The party of the president, the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, lost its majority in parliament in the recent election, so the opposition, the Kuomintang, or KMT, was able to pass it. Let's find out more about this from Gregory Copley, the president of the International Strategic Studies Association. Gregory, thank you for being here. Why is there public pushback to these reforms?
It's very interesting that it's come at this time, and perhaps unfortunate, because the bill is trying to achieve something which is already theoretically in place in the United States. That is, the ability of the Parliament or Congress to question officials and demand accountability and documentation. This is a push in a sense for greater democracy within the Parliament, but it comes, as I say, at an unfortunate time, because the People's Republic of China and the Communist Party of China is exploiting this to show that there is division within the polity and governance of Taiwan. The fact that you're getting such pushback by the public against the majority voters in Parliament is very, very interesting, because the pro-democracy movement, if you like, on the streets is actually pushing for restraining Parliament from being able to have these punitive powers of subpoena and arrest and the like. The interesting thing, though, is that there is reasonable doubt as to whether it's a good time to introduce this legislation, because the Parliament has proven to be porous in the past, and there are not necessarily sufficient security arrangements in place to stop leakage of information to the Communist Party of China's intelligence organs. And that's going to be the key point, that this is actually giving an opportunity to the Communist Party of China. Unfortunately, this has also given the governing party of President Lai, the DPP, the opportunity to label the KMT Kuomintang opposition as being pro-Beijing, which I think is not the case either. So the question is this the right time for this debate and argument to take place? And is the KMT and its partner in the parliament basically taking advantage of their new power within the legislature?
And Gregory, this could be a first for Taiwan. They're criminalizing contempt of parliament and requiring the president to give regular updates to parliament. Can you go into a little bit more detail as to how the CCP would try to exploit this situation?
Well, any divisions within Taiwan are being exploited by the Communist Party. What we're seeing today is this attempt to portray Taiwan as not being a unified and coherent nation, solid in its defense against the invasion threats by Beijing. Beijing has already started escalating, as we knew it would, its military containment of Taiwan. They're trying to restrict the airspace and sea space around Taiwan. They're gradually, if you like, drawing an embargo zone around Taiwan, which ultimately could lead to an attempt to quarantine Taiwan from international communications and trade. The government, in this case, I mean the government of Taiwan, not specifically the parties, are anxiously working to improve their communications to defend against this. In other words, to get more direct satellite links if the mainland attempts to cut off the undersea cables, which provide about 80 to 90% of the communications traffic with Taiwan in and out. And if they try to contain Taiwan from a shipping point of view, these are plans which we've known about for some time from mainland China, that they wanted to absolutely restrict and close down Taiwan's ability to trade, its ability to communicate and the like, and ultimately its ability to defend itself. I think if the PRC goes too much further, they risk creating a situation where Taiwan's allies, particularly the United States, Japan, Philippines, and Australia, will actively support embargo breakers to allow convoys into Taiwan, will allow some kind of restrictions on the PRC's ability to cut the undersea cables and the like. But basically, the PRC is on the offensive in the only way that it can at this stage, because Xi Jinping, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, has committed himself to an invasion of Taiwan by one means or another. And frankly, this is an almost impossible task for him to achieve, short of committing the People's Liberation Army to an actual war, which is, at this stage, for the PLA, an unwinnable war. So essentially, the mainland Chinese are trying to put President Lai in a very tough position. They're testing him in his early stages of his presidency. They're exploiting the divisions between the DPP and the KMT, and at the same time trying to look credible while President Xi, or General Secretary Xi Jinping's position, is getting increasingly weak because of China's weakening economy, because of the ability of the opposition states around the PRC, including India, Japan, Philippines, Australia, Vietnam, and the like, from making any breakout by Xi Jinping possible. So the Chinese mainland economy is declining at this particular time as well.
Well, thank you so much for the very in-depth insight. Gregory Copley, the president of the International Strategic Studies Association.
Thank you.
Next up, at least one person is dead and 7 are injured after an explosion at a building in Youngstown, Ohio.
Authorities believe the incident was caused by a natural gas explosion.
A video provided by local news showed debris flying through the air. The explosion caused extensive damage to the building.
Firefighters helped some people get out of the building. It houses a bank on the ground floor and also has some apartments. Police confirmed the person killed was an employee of Chase Bank.
JP Morgan Chase said it was in close contact with local officials and is checking on the safety of people in the building and area. Authorities say at least one person is still missing. And a tragic death in Texas as a teen was killed by a collapsing house due to violent weather.
This as storms continue to batter the region.
A 16-year-old construction worker died yesterday when 2 homes under construction collapsed in Magnolia, Texas. During a thunderstorm, workers noticed the house was shifting and evacuated, but the teen couldn't escape.
In Dallas, a storm ripped the roof off Rainbow Hardware, a warehouse in one of the city's commercial districts. In other parts of the city, trees were uprooted, low-lying parks filled with rushing water, and signs were knocked down.
In Houston, strong gusts of wind and rain struck yesterday as stormy weather continues to hit the state. An underpass in the city was covered by rainwater, creating a potentially dangerous situation.
About 1 million businesses and homes were without power as damaging winds and baseball-sized hail pummeled the Lone Star State yesterday. And coming up, South Korea on alert as mysterious balloons from North Korea are detected near the border. What they were carrying.
And New Yorkers delight in a special phenomenon called Manhattan Henge. More on the unique occurrence, which involves a perfectly aligned sunset, when we return.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
You need some help?
Your tow chains are a little loose. Could spark a wildfire. I could show you how to secure them properly if you'd like.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You should check out SmokeyBear.com. They've got a bunch of tips on wildfire prevention.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Another American charged with possessing ammunition in the Turks and Caicos Islands pleaded guilty yesterday.
A judge will sentence Ryan Watson of Oklahoma on June 21st. He is one of 5 Americans arrested on similar charges.
Also yesterday, Tyler Wenrich of Virginia avoided a potential 12-year prison sentence time. The judge sentenced him to time served for 3 weeks and a $9,000 fine. He pleaded guilty to possessing ammunition earlier this month.
Last Friday, Brian Hagerich of Pennsylvania pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 1 year.
Michael Lee Evans of Texas was arrested in 2023. He was allowed to return to the U.S. to deal with a severe medical condition. He's expected to come back for another hearing. Sharita Grier of Florida is expected to appear in court in July.
The islands implemented harsher gun laws in 2022 as part of its major crackdown on firearms and weapons. The State Department has issued a travel advisory warning Americans to check their luggage for stray ammunition or forgotten weapons before leaving the U.S.
And next, South Korea is accusing North Korea of sending a large number of balloons across their heavily fortified border to drop objects, including trash and excrement.
Military response teams have been sent to inspect and collect the objects.
Over 260 balloons have been detected so far, and most of them have landed on the ground.
Photographs released by the South Korean military showed inflated balloons with plastic bags tethered to them. Other images appeared to show trash strewn around collapsed balloons with the words excrement written on a bag in one photograph.
North Korea has reacted angrily to balloons sent its way by South Korean activists. Those usually carry anti-Pyongyang leaflets, mini radios, and USB memory sticks with K-pop music videos and dramas.
On Sunday, a top North Korean official denounced balloons sent by South Korean activists. He warned that mounds of waste paper and filth would be sent to the South in response.
And this year marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and commemorations are gearing up to remember those who died to protect their country.
The Eternal Flame arrived in New York City last week after traveling from France. NTD's Eileen Ng has the story.
June 6th, also remembered as D-Day, marked a turning point in World War II. This year, the Eternal Flame arrived in New York City for a commemorative ceremony. D-Day survivors recall that day as the anniversary approaches.
This year is a special year because it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So that's very special for us.
I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was there on a destroyer, USS Murphy, DD 603, and we went in at 5:30 in the morning, and it was cold and the water was choppy and I was freezing and nervous, and I'm sure a little scared, but we had known about it for a little while, and so I had time to adjust.
After traveling across the Atlantic Ocean from France on board the Queen Mary II, the Flame arrived in New York on May 23rd. The flame had been burning on the tomb of the unknown soldier under the Arc de Triomphe in Paris since November 11, 1923. 34 young French ambassadors escorted the flame off the ship as France's U.S. ambassador joined World War II veterans and New York City's Commissioner for International Affairs.
The relationship between the U.S. and France runs deep, stemming from the days of American Revolutionary War. Since then, our nations have cultivated a profound and enduring connection, fostering diplomatic relations and vibrant cultural exchanges. One example of this incredible bond is the Eternal Flame, originating in France as a tribute to the unknown soldiers who fell during World War I.
The young French ambassadors will next escort the flame to Arlington Cemetery, where it will burn until June 6, marking 80 years since the Allied armies landed on along the Normandy coast in France and launched the largest amphibious invasion in military history.
I'm here, Don is here, and the rest of us are here
because friends of us, the ones that are at the American Cemetery at Colville, they made it possible for us to be here and for us to have all this great, and all you people having this great 80 years of great life and vitality that you have.
More than 9,000 Americans who lost their lives in World War II, primarily in the Normandy landings and ensuing operations, are buried at the Normandy American Cemetery in Colleville-sur-Mer, France.
True heroes.
Oh, absolutely. And so worth remembering these moments that were so pivotal for all of humankind, really.
Yeah, and that D-Day invasion, of course, was the largest amphibious assault in military history.
Something worth keeping in mind as so many conflicts around the world seem to continue despite concerted efforts. Next up, Manhattan Henge arrives in New York. Twice a year, New Yorkers and visitors are treated to this special phenomenon.
It happens when the setting sun aligns with the Manhattan street grid and sinks below the horizon, framed in a canyon of skyscrapers.
Quite the sight to behold. The event is a favorite of photographers, of course. It often brings people out onto sidewalks on spring and summer evenings to watch the unique sunset.
The first Manhattan Henge of the year happened last night at 8:13 p.m., and a slight variation will happen again tonight at 8:12 p.m. It will also take place on July 12th and 13th.
Manhattan Henge could be seen from 14th, 23rd, 34th, 42nd, and 57th Street, if you happen to be nearby. It can also be seen across the East River and the Long Island City section of Queens.
Yeah, it's a real spectacle. You know, too bad I miss it. I'm sound asleep by that point.
Oh yeah, I bet you are, and that's got its own benefits, of course. But this is a sight to behold, you know, in such a city where it's just a concrete jungle, but you've got those moments of glory, really, and nature peeking in.
Yeah, man's creation and nature teaming up.
Okay, next, a stunning story of survival.
A 19-year-old fell 400 feet below this bridge and lived.
Crews say the man took a steep path underneath the structure and slipped, sliding all the way down to the river at the bottom.
The Mason County Sheriff's Office in Washington State worked quickly, sending a harnessed firefighter down a rope for the rescue.
Crews hooked the teen up and hoisted him back up to safety. Incredibly, the teen only suffered minor injuries from the major fall, something rescuers say is a miracle. And there are more recoveries than there are rescues, they said.
I'm just so glad that he was getting out of there with just minor injuries.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, these are the kinds of stories that you live to tell your grandchildren.
Well, yeah, and in those type of remote areas, it's going to be hard to find first responders, so good thing that they were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And alrighty, we have to wrap up our show now, but be sure to stay in touch, and you can reach us via email, of course, and stay tuned for NTD's News Today broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
Thanks for watching. I'm Stephanie Cox.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.